let me say I'm really pleased to be here. It's wonderful to see the turnout, and it's wonderful to see people of all ages and all backgrounds. And I really hope that what we provide to you is useful information, but I'm also interested in hearing what you have to say, because ultimately when I come to these kinds of events, I can learn as much as I can give to the people. So look forward to your questions, your comments. This image is perhaps to some provocative. The reason why I have it there is, to me, it reflects that the cruise industry has an image that presents itself as being particularly responsible and particularly clean. It's kind of the front stage. But ultimately what they present to us is not necessarily what's going on backstage, what's going on the ship generally. Now I'm going to go very quickly. I've got 15 minutes, so I'm going to talk fast. I'm going to give a quick overview of the industry. I'm going to talk about the impacts of cruise tourism, specifically economic, sociocultural, and environmental issues. And then I'm going to talk about other places that have mitigated the negative impacts and how they've built on the positive of cruise tourism. Just in terms of some background, Anisha gave a bit of background. The cruise industry has grown phenomenally. In 1970, 650,000 people took a cruise. Last year, it was 13 million. That's a 20-fold increase in a relatively short amount of time. About 18 million people cruise worldwide in a year. The annual growth since the beginning is 7.4%. There's now 200 ships with accommodations for more than 300,000 passengers sailing out of North America, and another 125,000 crew members. It's easy to see why the cruise industry is the second largest city in the state of Alaska during the summer. Okay. The total worldwide, 275 ships, and about 16 to 18 million passengers. The largest of the companies is Carnival Corporation. Carnival Corporation has 11 brands. They account for 53% of the North American cruise market. They're literally huge. Their new ships have about 5,000 passengers or more. With crew members, you're talking about 7,000 people. The corporation has 95 ships, 11 more on order. Their occupancy runs as much as 110 to 115%. If you're wondering how to get to that, occupancy is based on 2 people per room. When you have 3 people per room, that room has 50% more occupancy. So when you say 110%, it means that you've got more than 2 people per room. Carnival Corporation this year will have a net profit of over $2.5 billion. They pay nothing in corporate income tax because they're registered in Panama. Over the past 5 years, as you can see, their profit has been $12 billion. Oops, went the wrong direction. Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited, they're the second largest, about 27% of the North American market. They have 5 brands. Their largest ship, as Nisha's already pointed out, can carry as many as 7,300 passengers, 2,500 crew. Literally huge. The corporation has 39 ships, 7 more on order with another 100,000 berths. Okay. And their profit has, over the past 4 years, is about $2.5 billion. Registered in Liberia, they too pay no corporate income tax. There's also smaller players. Of the big 3, Norwegian Cruise Lines would be the next in size, about 13% of the North American market. And then there's other smaller companies that have, a couple of ships or even single ships. Now there's been a lot of changes in the industry. There's what's called drive-to cruising. Now this developed after 9/11. The idea was that at 9/11 the air traffic system became paralyzed, so people couldn't fly. Ships were leaving ports empty because people couldn't get to the ship they had reserved. So the cruise industry came up with this idea, drive-to cruising. The idea is to put cruises close to where people live so they don't have to fly to get there. So you've got cruises from Boston, from New York, from Baltimore, from Philadelphia, from Norfolk, from Charleston, from Jacksonville, Miami, Mobile, Alabama, Gulfport, New Orleans, and Galveston. And again, the idea is you place the ships in a place where you have a large enough catchment area that you can fill that ship with people within driving distance to the port. There's a shift because they've had to lower their prices in order to get people on board. How do they make money? There's a shift to greater onboard revenue. Most people, when they go on board a ship, will spend more money on board than they paid for the cruise ticket itself. In 2007, the industry's own figures, they earned $43 profit, not gross spending, profit, net profit per passenger per day. They earn more money from onboard spending than they earn from ticket sales. They're reducing the amount of time in ports because they make more money at sea, the casino, the bars, and the activities. They're dropping ports in order to save money. They're moving to larger ships increasingly, and the Oasis of the Seas is a perfect example. The head of Royal Caribbean said this: the ship is the destination. We want to have so many things to do on this cruise ship that there's no reason to go ashore. There's also increasingly corporate ownership of the cruise terminals. This isn't going to happen here, obviously, but in many other places, the cruise lines own the terminals they stop at. So they're pocketing the money, not only from the ship, but also from the money made by the terminal. And the bottom line is Mickey Arison, CEO of Carnival Corporation, says worth about $6.5, $7 billion, owns the Miami Heat. As he says, it's all about making money. There's also changing demographics. As they lowered the prices, the clientele has changed. You get more people middle class, working class, which is fine. I mean, everybody deserves to go on a cruise, but it certainly changes the way the cruises operate. So that in the 1990s, early 2000s, cruise passengers spent more because they had more money in their pockets. If people have less money when they buy their cruises, they have less money to spend in port. And of course, as onboard revenue increases, it also decreases the amount of money people have to spend when they stop in a port. There's also issues in terms of port relations with cruise ships. The ports can charge port fees, and they range anywhere from nothing to $50 or more. The question becomes, how much is enough? The Oasis of the Seas passengers are leaving behind with embarkation and disembarkation $30 in Fort Lauderdale. Okay? Shore excursions are related to port relations. They sell shore excursions, the tours on board cruise ships. More than 50% of what a passenger pays for the tour is retained by the cruise ship as a commission for selling that tour. That means that the person providing the tour on shore, let's say I spend $50, I expect a $50 product. But the person providing the tour has only gotten $20 or $25. And if I'm unhappy, I'm not going to blame the cruise ship. I'm going to blame the folks in the port that I got ripped off. The cruise line takes its money and is laughing all the way to the bank. But the folks who are doing the tours are struggling to get by. They also operate shopping programs. If anyone's been on a cruise, they give you a map of preferred stores. You're supposed to go to those stores so you'll get the best deal. They'll guarantee you're going to be treated fairly. They get payments for those, up to 40% of the gross receipts. And then the issue of spending studies. Ports think they make $100 per passenger for every port call. That's what the industry claims. Studies done by ports indicate the number is closer to $40 or $45. A good example, Belize and Costa Rica have done studies based on spending. What they found is that cruise passengers account for 75 to 80% of their foreign visitors, but only 10% of the employment in the hospitality sector. So basically, cruise tourism is a business. The issues are cruise ships are mobile, they can move around and go wherever they want, and they drive a hard bargain. They try to get the best deal they can on shore excursions, money from stores, and even in infrastructure for free. They tend to play ports off at one another. So you'll hear, well, if Charleston won't play with us, we'll go to Savannah. This is common all over the world, and you get ports giving things away in order to keep the cruise ships there or to attract a cruise ship from another port. There's vertical integration. Cruise ships, Carnival Corporation in Alaska owns not only the cruise ships, they own the tour buses, they own the hotels, they own the train cars, they own basically the tour mechanism. Norwegian Cruise Line's the same thing in Alaska. And the onboard stores are owned by Louis Vuitton and Moët Hennessy, brand names you know. They say they will not be undersold, and of course, they can't be undersold because they're selling the products to the stores that you're going to in the Caribbean. And then the supply chains. They buy material, what they bring on board the cruise ship, they buy en masse, they take it to warehouses, and then they truck it to the cruise ship. So when you go to the pier here, you're going to see trucks coming from Miami, from the warehouses in Florida. They're not buying product here in Charleston. They're loading it in Charleston, but it's not coming from Charleston. There's also the issues for a port is the problem of displacing traditional tourism. The idea of people pollution. What is the carrying capacity of a town? How many people can visit before it becomes too crowded? Now, I'll talk in a while about Key West, Florida, which reached